The Pixar shared universe. Every Pixar movie exists in the same timeline, according to this theory. It begins with Brave, where magic is introduced through the witch and her shape-shifting. That magic mutates animals and objects, leading to intelligent life forms like the bugs in a bug's life. Over centuries, artificial intelligence develops, giving rise to the sentient toys in Toy Story and the cars in Cars. Eventually, humans ruin Earth, which leads to WALL-E, where humans abandon the planet. After Earth recovers, animals re-emerge as dominant, like in Ratatouille and Finding Nemo. The theory ends with Monsters, Inc., where monsters exist far in the future and use doors to time travel back for energy. Boo is thought to be the witch from Brave, trying to find Sully again. Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord. This theory claims Jar Jar wasn't just comic relief, he was a Force user manipulating events behind the scenes. Fans point to his uncanny agility in battle, like flipping and dodging blaster fire in ways only trained fighters can. He also uses subtle hand movements while speaking, similar to Jedi mind tricks. His rise from outcast to senator, and then granting Palpatine emergency powers, aligns too perfectly. His clumsiness, believed to be an act masking his true intentions. He's always near key decisions, yet avoids blame. His connection to Palpatine raises eyebrows, some say they were working together. The theory argues Jar Jar helped engineer the fall of the Republic, and his goofiness was the perfect cover. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm gonna start posting a lot here. Thanks. Anyways, James Bond is a code name. This theory suggests James Bond isn't one person, but a title passed between agents over decades. It explains the changing faces, personalities, and timelines. From Sean Connery in the 1960s to Daniel Craig decades later. Every Bond has different traits, yet carries the same name, number, and habits. The theory argues that James Bond and 007 are aliases assigned to new operatives to maintain a consistent legend. Supporting evidence includes characters like M and Q acknowledging different Bonds without surprise, and various continuity resets that don't match one person aging naturally. Even Bond's knowledge or lack of certain events shifts from film to film. This theory accounts for decades of films without needing a superhuman lifespan. Ferris Bueller is Cameron's alter ego. This theory claims Ferris isn't real, but a projection of Cameron's imagination. Ferris does everything Cameron wishes he could: skip school, defy authority, and enjoy life without fear. The idea is that the entire day off is a mental escape, with Ferris acting out Cameron's suppressed desires. Ferris interacts mostly with Cameron and Sloane, rarely with others, and always leads the day's events. When things go wrong, it's Cameron who panics, not Ferris. Ferris seems unrealistically confident, charming, and lucky, traits Cameron lacks. Even the confrontation with Cameron's dad is framed as a turning point, with Ferris encouraging him to stand up for himself. The theory treats the film as a psychological journey rather than just a teen comedy. The Joker is a war veteran. This theory argues that the Joker in The Dark Knight shows signs of military experience. He uses explosives, firearms, and interrogation tactics with disturbing precision. He plans coordinated attacks, executes them flawlessly, and adapts quickly. Skills often linked to special forces. His knowledge of chaos theory and psychological warfare suggests tactical training. The theory highlights his body language, discipline under pressure, and use of diversion, all signs of a soldier. His scars, possibly battlefield injuries. He mocks order, hinting at trauma from following it. He targets symbols of authority, like police and politicians, possibly out of disillusionment. Some fans believe his past involves dishonorable discharge or betrayal. The Joker's madness, according to the theory, is rooted in post-war trauma. Jack is a time traveler. This theory says Jack Dawson came from the future to save Rose. He mentions landmarks like the Santa Monica Pier and Lake Wissota, places that didn't exist in 1912. His haircut and rucksack style also don't match the era. Jack has no documented history before boarding, and he shows up just in time to prevent Rose from jumping. He guides her through huge life changes, then disappears completely. Fans believe his mission was to make sure Rose survived, ensuring the timeline stayed intact. His presence alters key events on the ship, and he never tries to save himself, only her. Even his ticket was won last minute, like fate placed him there. The theory frames Jack as a guardian shaped by future knowledge. Kevin McAllister becomes Jigsaw. This theory claims the clever kid from Home Alone grows up to be the sadistic mastermind from Saw. Kevin's traps are brutal, calculated, and way too advanced for a child. He smiles as intruders suffer, showing signs of emotional detachment. He's left alone often, with no support system, which could fuel psychological damage. Jigsaw shares Kevin's love for homemade devices designed to punish and teach lessons. Both characters use recorded messages, voice changers, and personal tests. Jigsaw even favors old buildings like Kevin used. The timeline could fit too. Kevin would be an adult by the early 2000s. The theory argues Kevin's childhood trauma evolved into a twisted sense of justice. It paints a disturbing arc from prankster to killer. Breaking Bad is a prequel to The Walking Dead. Yes, it's a television show, but this theory was too wild to leave out. It claims the blue meth from Breaking Bad caused the zombie outbreak in the The Walking Dead. Clues appear in both series. Merle Dixon sells blue meth, and a character named Glenn drives a red Dodge Challenger just like the one Walter White gave to Walter Jr. There's also a character who describes a Heisenberg figure, matching Walter's alias. The theory suggests the purity and chemistry of the meth triggered a virus or mutation that spiraled out of control. Both shows share producers, which fans say isn't just coincidence. The chaos, survival themes, and character overlaps make it feel connected. The Tarantino shared universe. This theory argues that all of Quentin Tarantino's films exist in two connected realities. One is the realer than real world, home to characters like Vincent Vega and The Bride. The other is the movie world, where films like Kill Bill and From Dusk Till Dawn exist as fictional stories that characters from the realer world would watch. Evidence stacks up. Mr. Blonde from Reservoir Dogs is Vic Vega, the brother of Vincent from Pulp Fiction. Red Apple Cigarettes and Big Kahuna Burger appear across different movies. Even character names match, like Sheriff McGraw in multiple titles. The theory also explains the exaggerated violence and stylized storytelling. Tarantino's timeline is chaotic, but everything ties through bloodlines, brands, and callbacks. Neo is still in the Matrix. This theory claims Neo never left the Matrix even after waking up. Clues are everywhere. He displays superhuman powers in the so-called real world, like stopping sentinels with his mind. That shouldn't be possible outside the simulation. The theory argues the machines created another layer of control, a matrix within a matrix, to trap rebels who thought they escaped. Neo's visions, sudden upgrades in abilities, and his connection to the source suggest he's still being manipulated. Morpheus's blind faith might be part of the design, and Zion could be another program. Even the architect hints at multiple reboots and cycles, which backs this up. The idea is that Neo's rebellion was just another level of machine control. The Wizard of Oz is a metaphor for the gold standard. This theory says the story represents late 19th century American monetary policy. Dorothy's silver slippers changed to ruby in the film, walk a gold road, symbolizing the debate over silver versus gold-backed currency. The Scarecrow represents farmers seen as lacking brains, yet full of practical wisdom. The Tin Man stands for industrial workers, dehumanized by factory labor. The Cowardly Lion is believed to be William Jennings Bryan, a political figure known for bold speeches but little impact. Emerald City symbolizes Washington, D.C., and the Wizard is a powerless political leader hiding behind illusions. Even the journey itself is viewed as a struggle to balance economic power. Every character ties to real economic and political issues of the time. The Babadook is a representation of grief. This theory argues the monster isn't real. It's a metaphor for the mother's unresolved sorrow. Amelia's husband died driving her to the hospital, and her son's birth shares that tragic anniversary. The Babadook shows up through a mysterious book and begins tormenting them, mirroring her emotional breakdown. It feeds on denial, growing stronger the more she avoids her feelings. The creature's presence intensifies as her mental state worsens, showing up with violent imagery and sleep deprivation. When Amelia finally confronts it, she doesn't destroy it, she locks it in the basement and feeds it, symbolizing how grief never fully vanishes. It has to be managed, not ignored. The film becomes a psychological allegory, not just a horror story. Willy Wonka is a serial killer. This theory claims the candy maker isn't just eccentric. He's methodically picking off kids. Every child that disobeys vanishes under suspicious circumstances, and Wonka shows no concern. Augustus is sucked into a pipe, Violet swells up, Veruca falls into a chute, and Mike's shrunk by a laser. Each accident fits their personality flaw, like punishment. The Oompa Loompas have songs ready instantly, as if rehearsed. Wonka never tries to stop anything and even encourages the chaos. His factory's dangerous design and his cold reactions suggest premeditation. The kids' fates are never clearly resolved, and the film ends with only Charlie surviving. The theory paints Wonka as a calculating figure who uses the tour to judge, trap, and eliminate. The Rock in Fast and Furious is a time-traveling Terminator. This theory says Luke Hobbs isn't just a federal agent, he's a machine sent from the future. He survives injuries that should kill anyone, breaks through walls with ease, and lifts massive weights like it's nothing. His dialogue is robotic, direct, and full of mission-driven focus. He shows up exactly when the crew needs him, like he's following a calculated timeline. He never seems shocked by advanced tech or chaos, and his emotional detachment lines up with Terminator behavior. Fans point out how he heals rapidly and shrugs off pain, all while delivering lines with mechanical precision. The theory argues Hobbs was programmed to assist Dom's crew, making sure certain events play out correctly. The events of Finding Nemo are Marlin's grief hallucination. This theory argues that after the Barracuda attack, Marlin's only surviving egg didn't make it, and everything after is his mind coping with the loss. He imagines a journey full of dangers and unlikely allies, each reflecting parts of his trauma. Dory represents forgetfulness, a way to avoid pain. The ocean's obstacles mirror stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. His obsession with protecting Nemo shows his refusal to let go. The story's surreal elements, like talking fish and gulls shouting "mine," reflect a dreamlike detachment. Even the happy ending feels too perfect, like a fantasy. The theory suggests Marlene invented the adventure to survive heartbreak, turning tragedy into a hopeful illusion. The bride dies at the end of Kill Bill Volume 2. This theory argues that Beatrix doesn't actually survive her final reunion with BB. She completes her mission, but the emotional and physical toll catches up. After killing Bill with the 5-point palm exploding heart technique, she stumbles away. Then, the screen cuts to her in a hotel bathroom, crying and laughing. That scene feels disconnected, like a final dream or dying vision. Her entire journey was about revenge, and once it's done, her purpose is gone. The theory says her moment with BB is imagined, a peaceful end to her violent life. She fades out of focus, and the music swells as if signaling closure. It frames her ending not as victory, but release. The dinosaurs in Jurassic Park aren't real dinosaurs. This theory says the creatures aren't authentic, but genetically engineered hybrids. Dr. Wu admits in the film that gaps in the dino DNA were filled with other species, like frogs. That means they weren't resurrecting true dinosaurs, they were creating approximations. The behavior's off too. Raptors hunt in packs like wolves, the T-Rex has vision based on movement, and their sizes don't always match fossil records. The theory argues InGen prioritized spectacle over accuracy, crafting monsters to impress guests, not recreate history. Even the colors, sounds, and features are exaggerated. Some could even change sex, like amphibians. Instead of a prehistoric revival, the park becomes a laboratory of man-made attractions built for control and profit. The Shining is about the moon landing. This theory claims Stanley Kubrick used the film to confess he helped fake the 1969 moon landing. One clue is Danny's Apollo 11 sweater, worn during a pivotal scene. Room 237 allegedly represents the distance to the moon, 237,000 miles, as believed at the time. The Overlook Hotel is filled with odd symbols like Native American imagery and mirrors, which fans interpret as metaphors for deception and hidden truth. Jack's typewriter changes color, suggesting continuity errors done on purpose. The phrase "all work and no play" is thought to reference the endless effort of maintaining the lie. The theory says Kubrick buried his guilt in visual codes throughout the film. The kids in Rugrats are Angelica's imagination. This theory claims all the babies are figments of Angelica's mind, created to cope with loneliness and neglect. According to it, Chucky died in childbirth, which explains why his dad's always nervous and sad. Tommy was stillborn, which is why his dad's obsessed with building toys for a baby who never grows. Phil and Lil were never born at all. Their mother had a miscarriage, and since Angelica didn't know the gender, she imagined twins. Angelica controls every storyline and often talks for the others, reinforcing the idea that it's all in her head. Her outbursts and fantasies reflect her trauma, and her world shifts constantly. The theory paints the entire show as her way of surviving emotional isolation. The events of Inception are all a dream. This theory argues that Cobb never wakes up, and the entire film happens inside his subconscious. His spinning top never clearly falls, leaving the ending ambiguous. Throughout the movie, dream logic slips in, impossible architecture, shifting scenes, and time distortion. Cobb's guilt about Maul blurs reality, and characters often guide him like projections, not real people. Even Saito's phone call to clear Cobb's charges feels too convenient. His kids never age or change clothes, and their final scene mirrors his recurring dream. The theory suggests the whole mission was Cobb's attempt to confront his grief and find peace. Everything lines up too perfectly, pointing to a layered dream he builds to finally let Maul go. The events of Harry Potter are a metaphor for mental illness. This theory claims Hogwarts and the wizarding world exist only in Harry's mind. He's abused, neglected, and lives in a cupboard, then suddenly escapes into a magical reality where he's special and powerful. Each major character represents parts of his psyche, Dumbledore as wisdom, Voldemort as inner darkness, and Hermione as logic. Dementors resemble depression, feeding on happiness and leaving victims numb. The spells, potions, and magical creatures all reflect emotional struggles given physical form. His battles aren't just against evil, but against fear, trauma, and identity. The theory argues that magic is a coping mechanism, turning Harry's pain into a fantasy of control. Hogwarts becomes a mental refuge built from survival. The events of The Lord of the Rings are Frodo's dying dream. This theory argues Frodo never survives the stab wound from the Morgul blade on Weathertop. After that moment, the story shifts into a surreal quest full of mythical creatures, perfect timing, and endless resilience. His journey becomes increasingly symbolic, carrying the ring as a burden of pain, guided by figures of wisdom and courage. Rivendell, Lothlorien, and even Gandalf's return from death feel dreamlike, almost almost too convenient. The theory says Frodo's mind creates this epic adventure as he slips away, turning his suffering into a meaningful tale of heroism. The final journey to the Undying Lands symbolizes passing on. It reframes the entire trilogy as Frodo's last thoughts before dying. The events of Citizen Cain are a fabrication. This theory argues that the entire story of Charles Foster Kane is pieced together by unreliable sources, making it more myth than truth. No one hears Kane say Rosebud when he dies, yet the film builds everything around that word. Each person interviewed gives a different version of Kane. Some see him as a visionary, others as a tyrant. These conflicting accounts show how memory and bias shape the narrative. The reporter never finds a definitive answer because Kane's life is filtered through secondhand stories. Even the visuals shift in tone, reinforcing that we're seeing interpretations, not facts. The theory says the film isn't about who Kane was, but how people construct legacies from fragments. Aladdin is set in the future. This theory says the world of Aladdin isn't ancient, but thousands of years ahead. The biggest clue is the genie. He makes pop culture references from the 20th century, despite being trapped for over 10,000 years. He imitates celebrities, uses modern slang, and knows about technology that shouldn't exist. Agrabah itself blends old architecture with bizarre inventions and behaviors. Some fans believe it's a post-apocalyptic society where civilization rebuilt itself with traces of the past. Magic could actually be misunderstood tech, and the flying carpet might be advanced machinery. The theory argues that what looks like fantasy is actually science fiction, wrapped in centuries of cultural mashups and survival. Everything old is just forgotten future. The Lion King is a retelling of Hamlet. This theory points out that the film closely follows the structure of Shakespeare's tragedy. Simba is the prince, just like Hamlet, whose father is murdered by his uncle. Scar, like Claudius, takes the throne and manipulates those around him. Mufasa appears to Simba as a ghostly vision, urging him to remember who he is and reclaim his place. Timon and Pumbaa mirror Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, offering comic relief while distracting him from his responsibilities. The story revolves around revenge, identity, and destiny, key themes in Hamlet. Even the final showdown ends with the prince confronting the corrupt uncle in a fiery battle. The theory sees Disney's version as a simplified, animal-driven adaptation of Shakespeare's play. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.